Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and excited to join you here on this wonderful Tuesday. We got our guy, Mr. Anthony Schlegel, here, back from Jacksonville. How was that drive, Coach?
Coach, General. It was juicy, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you out there. So here's the predicament that we all find ourselves in. Do you need a third pod? Not a third leg. Everybody wants one of those, but a third pod. Because the other one, I actually would have been 4 deep. The other one was weight equipment only. It's like knick-knack Christmas stuff, right? So that can go. But really 2 pods, and it took 2 pods in a trailer, not gonna lie. And so I went over to the U-Haul place, got the trailer, didn't think much about the weight of it because they're the miscellaneous things. They're the things in the house that you and your wife, significant other, discuss. Do we sell this or not? How much did we pay for that? And we're going to let it go for that? And it's like, oh, we got kids that could potentially have apartments or houses in the near future. We'll just take it. There's a place that we can use it. We'll stick it at the armory. We'll stick it at the farm. Stick it in the basement. Put it in there. So I started driving. And I got up to about 70 miles an hour. You know, that's the speed limit. Dude, this thing was bouncing all over the place. It was like somebody on the ropes, you know, like a wrestling match. And it was chaos, guys. And so, therefore, I drove from Jacksonville, Florida to Columbus, Ohio. It should have taken 12 and a half hours. It took me 16 and a half because I could only go 60 miles an hour. It was bumpy. Now, here's good. Here's the deal. Good bonding time with my 7th grader, Sam. Got the dog in the back, Gunner. He's a good boy. And then the Apple CarPlay decided not to trip on, and you're already on the road. You've already made it, right? You got food. You went to the toilet. You filled up with gas. I ain't stopping until we get home. Well, Apple CarPlay goes out. So then I just sat there in silence for 300 miles until I eventually just turned on, like, because I don't know where I'm going. We're in the mountains of West Virginia. It's at night. It's like 11 o'clock. Stuff's bouncing around. You're passing trucks going up. They're passing you coming down. It was beautiful.
It's fairly simple, Schlegs. It's basically just 77 to 33, and like that's kind of the way. Once you're already in West Virginia, there's only really like one turn.
Like 95 to 26 to 77 to. I tell you what, though, Gallipolice.
The police
down there. When I saw that, the great state of Ohio, Jim Tressel, Lieutenant Governor, I was like, oh my gosh, finally.
Yeah, how sweet is that, by the way, when you see the Lieutenant Governor? It's, you know what, because we were in Philadelphia and over in PA coming back, and it was pretty sweet crossing back in, and Kellen was like, you know, my son's like, oh, like, look, there it is. And he goes, it says Coach Tressel, like, because he's the Lieutenant Governor. In Ohio, they put the governor and the lieutenant governor on our signs as you enter our state. Not all states do that, but here when you do it, they let you know. And so it's a BFD, Schlegs. That JD Vance up there. JD Vance. No, it was oh gosh.
You know who he is? It's the blonde-haired guy.
The blonde John Husted.
There you go. Exactly.
He took JD Vance's Senate seat, and then so then Tress was in there. Tress doing a great job. My producer for my show on The Fan, Mark the Shark, retired this morning. So I want to give Mark a big shout out. He was a Columbus radio legend for a long time, 44 years working in market, doing a great job, worked at a variety of stations. He was a guy that I used to listen to when I was driving around. And we used to have this joke. It became a bit like, when is Shark going to retire? And all of a sudden, what turned from 4 years, you know, we used to do it. He did it by days. And I go, man, days seems like overwhelming. You know, when you're talking about 4 years, like you're like 1,300 some days or whatever it is. And I said, let's do it by weeks. And it was amazing. And it was, 152 weeks. You know, like 126. We'd ask him like every couple of weeks. And then when he hit that double-digit mark, I go, Shark, you're inside of 2 years now. And then all of a sudden you started getting down and we saw that single-digit marker. And he was going to stay another week thanks to the way that our medic Medicare service works or whatever, like different things like insurance wise. He had to actually retire a week prior to his birthday. And so his birthday is July 11th. Our guy, Mark the Shark, will be 65 years old. He is retiring at the age of 64 and a handful of days remaining. And it was just awesome to kind of wish him farewell. He was such a big part of that. I always viewed him as a very fatherly figure. We'd have some great conversations. And his knowledge and his perspective, what I really liked, was so much different than mine. And Mark went to Ohio State, so he was a huge Buckeye fan, huge Jim Tressel fan is what got me thinking about it. And Tress put together a video as we had a little montage for him with a bunch of famous people telling him congratulations. And, from Bernie Kosar, Tom Hamilton, and Jim Tressel. And he goes, outside of my family, he's one of my top 5 favorite people in the world. And so I knew that would warm his heart. And we've got a great lieutenant governor, a former coach of ours, and Coach Tressel, which he's doing it after his wife had broken a wrist. She had to have surgery.
Dude, he was at the JR Memorial.
Yeah, of course.
Fountain, Russell's Point.
How was that, by the way? Listen, this is back in the JR, back in Ohio. You drove all night.
I drove in. I got in at 1:30.
Amarillo by morning.
We left at 9 a.m. We left at 9 a.m., Bob. And I actually stayed. I was like, Hunter rode with Steph. Faith rode with Ricky, my father-in-law, her dad. They drove up. I was like, you go. I was very paranoid about the garbage because we purged a lot. And, and we left the house. They told us, like, don't fix any of the walls. We're going to paint. We got it. I was like, thank you very much. Got it clean, deep clean on it. Looks really, really good. I was just very paranoid that they weren't going to take it. So I waited till the dump truck came through, the garbage truck, and I helped them load it in there. And then I drove in. I got in at 1:30.
So you helped the garbage man load the truck.
Yeah, 100% with my stuff.
God, I love you. You're a fine American.
I feel terrible. I was like, there's all this stuff. And so then we got in at 1:30. And then at 10:30, I left with my daughter, Faith, and Steph drove us up, got my truck from the Armory, and we drove to the JR Memorial and did the bar crawl that they do. And it was awesome, man. All these people were at these different bars and go out there. And all of it's about raising money for the James Cancer Hospital, through the Buckeye Cruise, the JR Memorial. Art and Tracy Kearns they run the show. They host this. And herself is battling stage 4 ovarian cancer. And her life will never be the same. And this has been going on. How long has it been going on, Steph? Like 10 years? A decade? Anyways.
I love that Steph's at the Armory with
you. Yeah, she's at the Armory. She's over here working because we had a pod deliver. She's going back and forth to the house, like whatever. So we drove up, did that, stayed the night. Tress came in, auctioned off some things, hung around, did the live auction, just telling people thank you for coming out and supporting the cancer research that they're doing at the James. And that was literally my first day back in the great state of Ohio on Saturday, whatever that day was. I think it was the 29th. Boom. We're back doing what we do, and that's paying it forward. So here we are. Now it's Tuesday, and we're doing the Bobby Carpenter show. We had Sharks thing this morning that we went up there to, which was awesome. It was just so good to see him and ask him a bunch of side nugget and
it was amazing
double bangers. Out there.
You asked him 2-banger slugs, and then Beam said you did this when he was on with us Friday. You go, I got a 2-banger for you, and then you only ask one part. And I don't know if you like Joe Biden it and just forget what the second part of the question was. Yeah. But Beam goes, I was waiting for the second part that never came. And the one time you asked Shark, I got a 2-banger for you. And Shark called you. I was like, what's the second part of the question?
Well, I wanted him to finish the first one, Bob, and then I was going to follow it up, predicated upon what he said with the second. So I don't want to give too many questions there to dissect it because they were voluptuous questions that I was asking.
They were pretty good.
Thanks. I'm getting better at this whole question game ever since I did that one show by myself. So I feel like I'm getting better.
It's called ATRQs. Ask the right questions, Mr. Yeah. Sashimata. And then you get
Sashimata.
You get the unexpected delight. It was always your favorite. And that's why I said people go, why did they say that? I go, you got to ask the right questions. And some of your stuff was like, what was your best day in radio? The best time you got to come on? What was the hardest thing you've ever had to do? Which, that's it. What was your best day in life? Your worst day? I mean, if people start talking about that, and that's a lot of what goes into it. Let me ask you this: who was who was up at the JR as far as players? Who did we have representing?
Oh man, there was a lot.
This is the first year I haven't gone in like a decade, and it crushed me.
I know everybody was asking about you, Bob. You were missed. I had to hold it up. Everybody likes the show, and all that you do. All right, Steph. Titus was there. Chris Fields was there. Matt Wilhelm and his son Mason was there. Who's Mason's going to North Carolina. Aaron Kraft was there. Huh? JJ Sullinger, of course. Look, I'm looking at my wife.
People's champ.
Yeah, he's the people's champ.
What was JJ wearing?
No, he had on like the JR Memorial tank top. Like they gave us some new tank tops. They're unisex. They really show off the back. Which I like.
Back?
Yeah, they really show out the back, which I like. I like that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do a lot of back work. Who else was there? Oh man, there was a lot. No. Time out. Tom's been texting me.
Kuzno?
No, Tom Kuzno wasn't there. It was a new Tom. I never met him. He played under Woody. Oh, I saved it. Where are you?
Tom also played under Woody. Kuzno also played under Woody. So like that doesn't eliminate him from the selection set, but
no, he's up here.
What do you? I love the.
Oh, Tom Batista.
Okay.
He played. Yep. His wife was there. And Tom is a 2-time cancer survivor. Nice. So, anyways, and guess what? Him and his wife listen to the show and they love it. She herself was a gymnast and a cheerleader at Ohio State.
Okay.
So, Drew Basil was there and his wife. Obviously,
softball at Ohio State.
Softball All-American.
Yeah.
Craig Pappas, absolutely the golfing legend himself, the South African. Keep going, Steph. Keep going.
She has a way better recall than you do, Schleiks.
I'm total recall. Arnold.
That might be your best line that I've heard in quite some time.
Yeah, man. How about that guy? Recall. I haven't seen that movie. You guys think about that? Like, he was. You want to talk about a couple bangers there? Like, he was putting out some bangers back in the 80s.
That was in the 90s. I thought was Total Recall. I think that was early 90s, maybe.
I get my 80s and 90s mixed up. It was a blur.
You do. I mean, it's
lots of weight, lots of protein, heavy neck.
Nice thick neck, big check. That's good. I'm glad you had a good time. I encourage everybody, go up there, check out the Buckeye Cruise. They do a lot of great events.
They do, man.
That's one of the great ones that they.
Cool Wine's coming up in August. The horse race, the 10th anniversary. I know that.
Where's that at?
Up northeast. I think like right around Plain City up there. Mama K, you know Mama K.
Yeah, are you gonna head up to that, Schleiks? Now that you're back,
it's Mama K, man. I'm like, the first time they did it, I remember this 10 years ago. The first time we showed up there, they did a horse race. Remember that stuff? And the kids absolutely loved the horse race. And for some reason, they are like, oh, we're gonna put you in this like jail cell, and like people had to like pay to get you out of there, and whoever got the most money.
I've seen that in some of those movies. Usually, those are like kind of explicit things, where they tie you up.
Now, this really isn't that, but it raised some dollars. Hey, when called upon, you got to respond. When we're trying to kick cancer's butt, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you had a good time. Filled me in on that. I was
1990, Chris. Appreciate you. Total Recall. That's close enough to 80s.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it is. It's like I said, possibly early 90s. I mean, I wasn't totally convicted on it, and given the fact that it came out in 1990, you're as close to right as you could have possibly been without being on the number. So, kudos to you. Well done. Big show today. We got our guy Bill Bender joining us from Export. Bill Bender joining us from the Sporting News.
Sporting News. Who wears an Export mouthguard when he's watching his kids play lacrosse?
Absolutely. And attention parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouthguards, trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouthguards are scientifically tested to help absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouthguards, they feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber, custom fit. They 3D print that thing to your own grill for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Do not take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby today and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. Bill Bender of the Sporting News coming up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now we're pleased to be joined by one of the greats from the sporting news. Mr. Bill Bender is joining us right now and doing a great job. And Bill, it's amazing. I talk to you usually a couple times a week on the Morning Juice. We'll talk to you usually on Tuesdays here. And then today I got my show sheet and I was filling in for the show pony on Full Ride. I was like, oh, of course Bill Bender's going to be on there because why wouldn't he be? And then I'm going to talk to him again at about 12:15 after not getting a text out to you. So, Bill, I appreciate you joining us on short notice with everything that's going on. I'm sure your world has been a little bit crazy.
Yeah, like I told you last night, Jacob Hester, who, we're on his show quite a bit with you as well, he texted me at 10:30 and I was already asleep. So, I'd had a long weekend. We were in Indianapolis with both kids with the lacrosse, and it was a lot of fun. But, obviously we're getting into that next step, really close to media days. Can you believe that next week, July 8th, July 9th, we're going to have media day for Big 12 and off we go. And as soon as those media days are done, you're about a month away from kickoff. So it's an exciting time.
How excited are you to get this party started? Because, it seems like every week we talk to you and you guys are putting out a new list of coaches and where they rank and schools and where they rank. And we just want to cover ball because that's where the juice, that's where the meat potato, of what we do, is. Like, how excited are you for this week one or even just to get into camp? Like, what are you looking forward to? Here's my two-banger. No, I'm just kidding. I digress because I was just speaking randomly. How excited are you for the media days and what are you going to ask them?
Well, media days I think they've become not stale, but you know what to expect. I remember being nervous for like the first time I went to Big Ten Media Day, for example, when they did it in Chicago, and I was nervous to like ask a question. And then you're like, now you're, 15 years deep into it. And it's, it's a game of cat and mouse of sorts. The coaches will tell you something, but they won't tell you everything. And then, obviously with all the different conferences, I'll be down at ACC kickoff for a couple days. We'll be chasing Bill Belichick around and Dabo Swinney and that conference, which Schlags, I don't want to say it's the third wheel, but it kind of is. And they're trying to maintain their relevance, but there is stability now because Florida State dropped their lawsuit. And I think that conference is going to press on for the next 10 years.
It is, and you said you're going to ACC media days this year, if I remember correctly. How many of the different conference media days do you usually go to? And is this like a rotational thing, finding the best stories? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, some of it is predicated on, so one of our editors lives in Atlanta. He'll go to SEC. You balance, like, I could go to Big Ten, but also there's that knowing that, you know what, I'll be around Ohio State a lot in the fall. I'll be around if I need to go up to Michigan or go over to Penn State. You're close. So the only thing you're really missing by not going to that is the West Coast schools. Last year, certainly USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, they were a large focus of the Big Ten. But, I'm going to be honest, Bob, I'd rather that one after doing that drive to Indianapolis this weekend. I would rather Big Ten Media Day be in Indianapolis. It's a little bit of an easier drive, albeit very flat, as you guys know. But it's easy to get in and out of Indianapolis.
Hey, I'm going to ask you this because Bradley said ask the hard questions. And that's what I want, Richard. I want right now, here we go, on the spot. Hardest question, I don't care. You can pick whatever team. It could be a conference question. It could be for an individual team. What is the hardest question that you're going to ask a school in the Big Ten, a school in the SEC, and a school in the ACC? You can just pick a couple. You can go Big 12 too. I don't care. I need a hard one. I need a juicy one. Everybody out there, Richard, the hardest question, because you are that guy, the bender.
Well, with Ohio State, obviously, somebody will eventually ask Ryan Day about Michigan and what does that game mean now? Like we live in a world, which none of us thought was possible, where Ohio State can lose to Michigan and still win a national title. And then Ross Bjork comes on with his comments that maybe that game should be de-emphasized a bit. And, none of us are ever going to say, well, that's true. But in some ways, that's the question for Ohio State this year. Are you going to go back to back, knowing that game in Ann Arbor is probably the circle the date game on the schedule? For the SEC, I think the question is Greg Sankey. Are you going to work with the Big Ten instead of like playing tug of war and get us a 16-team playoff, which seems to be there's an appetite for that. So that's the SEC question. Now, ACC, I mean, any of us can ask Bill Belichick a question. I think we don't know what we want to ask him, but I can tell you by being, and I know Bobby played for him, he's not going to answer it anyway. So, you just understand that, like, when you ask Bill Belichick a question, you're probably not going to get it answered. So it better be phrased properly, or he's going to make you look very stupid.
Since we went there with that, Bubba Cunningham, their athletic director, who it's been reported and, talking to some people, they've said that he wasn't fully on board with the Bill Belichick hire. That wasn't maybe, quote, his guy. But he's their AD. They gave him an extension, but he's going to be stepping down in a year and then going to more of an advisory role. They're having, who was it, come in and run? I believe it was the director of maybe Petty Racing coming through, and he was on the advisory staff, I guess, that helped hire Bill Belichick. When you kind of hear those stories come out and some of the rumblings that maybe everyone wasn't happy there in Chapel Hill, kind of what does that say to you as you kind of see these pieces fall into place?
I would be stunned if Bill Belichick coached for more than 3 seasons. And again, you look at the Bill Walsh comparison to this. Bill Walsh coached 3 seasons at Stanford when he left the 49ers. He would be the offensive version of Bill Belichick in our lifetime from an X's and O's standpoint. And the first year at Stanford went very well. They won games. They beat Notre Dame. They competed. They were on TV. And then the next 2 years, not so much. So I think with Bill Belichick, best case scenario in year 1, North Carolina wins 8 or 9 games, which they've done in the past, and maybe gets in contention for the playoff or the ACC championship game. Worst case scenario, they have a losing record, and he maybe eyes the NFL again because he's not that far off of Don Shula's record. So I think those are the things to consider with Bill Belichick. And I would be stunned if the 3 of us were setting an over-under on how many seasons and put it at 2.5. I would probably flip and flop about it and take the over just because I think maybe 3 years.
I like that. It's funny. I'm going to give you guys a side nugget. So Matt Wilhelm goes down there with Mason talking to him, and he wanted to ask the direct question without asking the question, Bill, how long are you going to be at North Carolina? I got my son. He's coming to see you, man. Like, you're going to develop him. How long are you going to be here? And so he asks it, so, what does the future of, North Carolina football look like with you as the head coach? And okay, that's a great question, Matt. Prototypical Belichick, today is what matters, right? Like, all I can think about is the present. You know what I mean? Like, totally. So now let's redirect and get this horse back on the track. EA Sports came out with their semifinal list: Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. Who do you got, Bill?
I mean, we have our playoff projections out as well, and our final 4, if you will, would be Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State. And those are the 4. If you said, Schlegs, if you told me, you've got to get the national title right, I'll give you 4 teams, and I just got to get one of them has to win it. Those are the 4 I would pick. And then I would consider – I would probably flip and flop between Notre Dame and Clemson as the next 2. If you give me a bonus pick, give me 5, I'm taking Notre Dame, and I'm probably finding the national champion among those 6 schools. I believe the semifinals we have are Penn State versus Texas, which would be an incredibly fun game if it came to that, and then Ohio State versus Georgia, rematch of a couple years ago. I mean, that would be an insanely fun game as well. And we have Ohio State, Texas in our national championship game, which – one, risky because they're playing in week 1 And I mean, what is the likelihood of a week 1 game happening on August 30th? And then we go to January 19th and it happens again. I guess more so than in the past. It would never happen in the 14 era. And then can Georgia or Penn State disrupt that? So those are the 4 teams that I think are built best to win a national championship.
It's very interesting. I was curious if you're going to get to Notre Dame because you've said Marcus has done a great job of making them more likable, Bill, and I think that is accurate. But it feels like this is the first time entering a season that Notre Dame, we talk about them as having a legitimate national championship shot. I know before, like, hey, here's clearly the best 4, and then Notre Dame's probably 5th or maybe they're 4th, but there's like a considerable drop. It doesn't feel right now with how Marcus is recruiting and who's coming back that they're that far away. It's more of a much gradual slide, and you could see them being able to get it done, maybe more so than 5 to 7 years ago.
For sure. I mean, because the first thing we say when the AP Top 25 comes out, inevitably you'll see the who's overrated, who's underrated list. They come out every year in August. And Notre Dame, I bet in the 10 to 12 years I've been doing it, Notre Dame's always on the overrated list. And this year, I don't think people will do that because they'll be ranked between 5, 7, maybe as low as 8. And they'll say, yeah, that looks pretty good. They play Miami early in the season. Miami may be ranked in the top 10 as well. People may think Miami's overrated, depending on how Carson Beck fits in there. But again, that is the 3rd best game in week 1. Miami, Notre Dame, behind Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson. All 3 of those games are going to be incredible.
It's wild to think the Catholics versus convicts,
right.
The rematch that wouldn't, in any other weekend, that's going to headline it. And I hope we keep having these huge non-conference games. We're going to take a quick break. Got a big question to ask Bill Bender that maybe this is a day we'll remember in the future. I don't know if it's a day that will live in infamy, but we'll find out next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. If you're watching, please like, subscribe, leave your questions, comments, get active in the chat. We love all the engagement and interaction. We really appreciate it. And we love being joined by our guy, Bill Bender, who joins us almost always on Tuesdays. So you look at, December 7th, 1943. You look at June 6th, 1944. You look at July 4th, 1776. You look at July 1st, 2025, the day now that collegiate athletes were officially allowed to start getting be paid by schools. When we look back on this in 15, 20 years, Bill, as you're maybe writing your final column at the Sporting News, thinking, where are we at? How did we get here? How significant is this day going to be?
Well, I know 25 years from now in 2050, and we're kicking around some of these ideas at Sporting News, what's sports going to look like in 2050. When you go back and look at a college football game in 2000, for example, and you look at the coverage, and there's not, I don't think, the yellow lines on the field or like little things like that. And obviously the style of the play, the hits. I still think we're TBD on NIL, and it's been around for 5 years. I don't know. I think there's some good things about it. I think there's some bad things about it. With this House settlement, if it leads to kind of a CBA model and athletes having their union and contracts, I think Schleggs has talked about that on here a lot, like the 2-year contract that we're not going in the portal. You're fulfilling your obligation to the program. Then you go from there. Some change. If it leads to good things that we've been kind of not complaining about, but being worried about, then I think this will be a good thing. Does it lead to a super league of sorts with the haves and the have-nots, which that's one thing that I think is considerable, that the gap between the haves and have-nots has grown in the last 5 years. Even there's gaps within the Big Ten that have grown. Have you thought, there was a text with one of my friends that I played with in high school last fall where I was like, is there any point during this Michigan State game where you're worried about Ohio State? Of course not. Now, 10, 15 years ago, that would be different. So what do those gaps look like? I guess that's my big question.
I'm just in the chat hitting up people because they're asking good questions. And here's my question off of that and what you're writing about. For it to be a success, and you're right, we're still in the gray of NIL. For this house settlement, NIL, what is the biggest component that will lead to its success in the future? What do you think that is?
That we're actually moving toward maybe making players employees, but that we're paying players through the school. And I think that helps. And maybe, you can supplement that with NIL, but at what point are we maybe do a salary cap? Because I think at some point the NFL is going to have a say where, like take Jeremiah Smith, for example. I have no idea what Jeremiah Smith will make the next 2 years at Ohio State, but I have a feeling it's going to be close, if not more, than he might make as a rookie in the NFL.
That's facts.
Right.
They had a thing. Who is he on there with, Bob? Where was it Marshall that he was on there? And I guess they looked at each other's bank accounts and they were like, JJ has more bank account than I do.
Right. Yeah. And I think that throws the system off a little bit. Now, on one hand, the NFL is getting a free minor league, so they can't really complain. But then on the other hand, I think you're going to see more cases like Shamar Stewart with the Bengals a few weeks ago, where he leaves training camp because of some contract language. And when a college player comes in and is maybe making more money than they were, then these things are going to happen. I mean, you see that with the NBA draft last week. Our NBA writer, Steph No, wrote about how NIL, I have mixed feelings about this, said it killed the second round of the NBA draft. And I'm thinking, no, it made college basketball stronger because those guys will be back in college basketball next year, and that's going to make that game even better.
Well, eventually those guys will have to get out and get in the draft. But what it did, Bill, like you said, it allowed guys to stay instead of going and playing in the G League or playing overseas because they're getting compensated. And so that is one of the benefits ultimately of how this works. One of the questions I have for you, and because this is the whole structure with this, all of these schools, Bill, front loaded all their NIL, like all of their collective dollars, because now they can't do that anymore prior to today. And so next year at this time, we're going to have loads of issues because guys are going to have to take pay cuts and everything. It's going to be really weird if they stick to this $20.5 million mark. And, everybody, they're going to have to submit this stuff, I guess, to the clearinghouse. I don't know who's going to monitor the salary cap. Like, there's all these different questions. One of my questions was, like, we have two portals. So if you pay a guy, let's say, for argument's sake, $1 million a year, and he plays this season and then decides to get in the portal at the end of the season, like, what happens to the rest of that money that you put in there? Is that then reallocated to other players? Can you use that on bringing portal players in? Like, I'm really curious on how this structured kind of cap is going to work and what the restrictions are around it. Because talking with Rick Neuheisel, he goes, Dan Lanning had no idea. And I'm just like, if the coaches don't know, I don't know who does know then.
Right. And if they don't know, then the schools probably haven't told them or have a feel for that. Because I mean, for me, in theory, if somebody signs with Ohio State, has that 2 years or the year, you should be obligated to fill out the year. I mean, I'm using the example from our line of work. If I'm let go at Sporting News tomorrow, which let's hope not, because I got to work there for the next 20 years now. I got to work there till I'm 60. I'm not getting paid for the rest of the year. And or if I leave voluntarily, I'm certainly not getting paid for the rest of the year. And that's kind of what we're doing here. I think one of the things that needs to be policed is if you sign an NIL deal and you're obligated to appear at this, obligation or, a signing or whatever, an appearance, then you should go to that appearance. And if you don't, you shouldn't be paid for it. And that's something we might run into with this. That's a small part of the equation. And I think if you don't basically fulfill your contract, you shouldn't be paid. It's crazy that we're talking about buyouts in college football with transfers, but I think that's going to be the next piece of this because that's how you would avoid lawsuits. I mean, I should play for this team. I signed for this, but is that money going to the next school? One of the more confusing pieces of this whole thing that like you said, if the coaches don't know, then the schools are still trying to figure that out.
How short-sighted do you think that these schools that are just throwing money? I'll put it this way. Let me rephrase the question. If you are a school that has to make some type of bold move, the way that the USC they're just throwing this money at these kids before they actually get a definitive, like, here's the cap, et cetera, that we have moving forward. Do you think that response is short-sighted as opposed to the long game, the culture? Here's what we do, trying to stay within that limit and not necessarily overpromise and underdeliver on the back end, but actually like communicating and being transparent with people. Do you think it will bite them in the long run?
Well, I mean, let's look at like schools like Texas Tech that are trying to force their way into the game through NIL. That there's been pieces written about that. SMU kind of forced their way into the game, right? And it worked. They got to the ACC championship game. They got to the playoff in year one, and that's a market where it could take off. So you still want to see those success stories emerge in college football because, one of the things in my college football playoff projections is I have 8 of the 12 teams in from last year. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'd be willing to bet, like not a ton of money, but I bet half some money that half of the teams from last year will be right back in there. And I could totally see that happening. So we'll see how it goes. But to your point, how these schools manage all of this money will be just as important as how you play on the field, because you've got to set yourself up for success off the field. Schools like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Alabama, we'll see. Penn State, Notre Dame, those types, they're ready for this. We're going to find out who else is real quick.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, we appreciate you taking some time with us. There's a lot to dive into. We've got a couple more weeks left before the start of training camp, and it'll be filled with media days. So we appreciate it and keep doing some great work over at the Sporting News.
Hey, I will. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Have a great week.
See you, Richard. You too.
The great Bill Bender. Go check his stuff out at Sporting News. Make sure you read it. They've got all kinds of great stuff from bowl projections where they're basically breaking down what each team is going to finish and how they're going to look this year. I want to tell all the Buckeye fans out there about this brand new Buckeye gear. Our friends over at Backer, bckr.com. Go check them out. Premium Buckeye jackets, the windbreakers, the rain gear, the cold gear. They've got hats, everything you need. Premium pricing for premium products. They're all the features that you want. The stuff looks good. It feels good. It looks like the high-end hunting and fishing and skiing apparel that you have, the golf apparel that I was wearing it out on the golf course the other day to stay out of the rain. So go check them out. That's bckr.com. Promo code all caps Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y at the end, for free expedited shipping, and a portion of the proceeds goes back to our players over at Ohio State for NIL purposes. Again, that's bckr.com. Headlines coming up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show and our headlines. Listen, OSU got another boom over the weekend. We've been getting some big recruits coming in, but nobody's bigger than our friends over at Lake Spur. They do a great job. They're the marketing agency you want to work with. They've got clear goals that they're going to help set with you, help articulate them. The agency is built on unbelievable qualities, trust, strategy, performance. That's what's going to get it done for you. They're going to work side by side with you to seamlessly help you grow your business, help build it, and so that you can work on the business while they'll focus on a plan with the strategies and the targets that are going to get you there. They have the experience to back it up with over 100 years in the business. They eliminate the waste, and they're going to deliver for you on budget, which is huge because you don't want to see those big bills get hit at the end. Listen, they're not going to chase the clicks. They're going to help you find your customers, find your target audience, and build those partnerships. Lake Spur Marketing, the proof is in the partners. Now, Ohio State with another big boom, Schleiks,
Boom.
landing another defensive tackle. They've been doing a great job with it, and that's been kind of the area of concern. Now, these guys aren't going to be able to help them this year, but the question was, like, is Larry Johnson losing his fastball? We could throw that up, Pat. Cameron Brickle out of IMG in Bradenton, Florida. He's the 50th overall player in the Sunshine State, and now the Buckeyes have landed 2 defensive tackles over the past weekend. Plus, he'll be in this upcoming class of 2026. And Schleiks, it's always nice when you can get some beef on the inside.
Well, I mean, again, I'm wearing the Buckeye Donuts. I switched shirts. I saw Sweet Lou. You remember Sweet Lou, Bob? He's looking good. He came in. His brother Chris is the head lacrosse coach at Bishop Watterson, won a state championship. He brought me over the shirt and some olive oil from Greece. How about that? Anyways, hey, listen, big monster beefy dudes don't grow on trees, you know? And I was reading some of the comments like, hey, man, he's a Buckeye now. That's great. That's what you need. And we need some interior defensive linemen. I'm excited to see how those Duncanville guys, what transpires. And I know, again, the timing of certain things. Everybody's coming out when they're going to make a statement and when they're going to decide to go to a school. But I feel really good about where the defensive line is. And Larry hasn't lost it. I mean, I think you add in the mix of Matt Patricia, all the other guys that are in that room, and what Larry has been able to do, especially last year with those guys that went to the NFL. People see that, and there's a void. You lost 4 starters. There's room. Who wants to take the wheel?
Absolutely. That is it for our headlines today. We've got some tailgate talk, and some great questions are coming through the chat. Schleiks is engaging with everybody as always, and we'll get to those here coming up next. Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show here as we tackle our tailgate talk, where we answer your questions, folks, the ones that you have that want to get answered. We try to do this. We had some awesome ones. I broke down some of the ones yesterday from our Thursday show with Coach Carlos Lachlan, who was on. I encourage everybody to go check it out. It was about a half hour of pure gold with him on there. Absolutely tremendous. And one of the questions came in here, Schleiks. I think it was, where was it? Oh, from Troy V. As linebackers, which position did you guys appreciate more, D tackles or edge players? And always it's the D tackles. Like a guy that can set an edge, that's good for you and that helps. But if you can have a great set of defensive tackles, they're going to eat up 3 guys inside, and you can handle the tackles on the offensive tackles on the outside. But those 3, your shade and your 3 technique, your 1 or your nose guard and your defensive tackle, those guys are huge, at least in my opinion, Schleiks, because then the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and running downhill is a bad thing. So those guys always remedy that situation.
Yeah, Bob, you played it, right? We ran an under front. That means Bob was lined up in a 9 technique. He also played a 5 on the outside. Setting the edge is one thing, but if I got to scrape and get over the top, I can't be able to get there when you have an offensive guard that has a straight shot to you, especially if you're a backside guy with bringing a safety down on the weak side. The will linebacker has to get over the top. Hard to do when those guys can just fire off. Interior defensive linemen all day. We had 2 great ones. We had Patterson and Pitcock, man. Dudes.
Yeah, absolutely. Backside, a real backside guy, Schleiks. You got to love that. That's one of your favorites. Question here coming in. Where was it? From Steely Matt. Is it true Texas Tech had like $55 million for NIL? I said I talked about it last week. Not sure if I was mistaken. No, that's what has been reported. And so now they have this cap. What everybody did is they paid all that in the beginning of the year before the House bill or the House Senate went into effect today. And so all of those dollars were pushed back in there. And so, they paid a lot of money early on. And I think a lot of guys are getting some big checks here at the end of June, Schleiks, coming forward.
A tax return looks a lot different than ours. And I'll say this too, guys. You guys said in the chat, I think the long play of what Ohio State is doing is the right play. You also got to remember now, moving forward, all these NIL deals, you're going to have a cap. Every position group based upon however they want to structure, is going to have an allotment of money. Then you're going to have the NIL deals that can bridge the gap of where a guy wants to go. They now will have to be verified through Deloitte, a third party, that they are legitimate or not. There's no more illegitimate, like, boom, hey, man, $2 million to be the face of my
Let me ask you this. This is a question that Rick Neuheisel posed. If it's under $600, it's not vetted. He goes, can you have a guy do $600 deals?
One a day, 600 times.
Well, I mean, who's saying the time duration on it? You could have them sequentially, whatever.
And what is the value of that? Could that be 100 social media posts?
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
that's
Content, right? Oh, I'm gonna knock out 50 of these right now. Hey, there's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm with you, Bob. If under 600, like they're gonna get creative, guys. They're gonna take control to the extent, to the limit. Push it to the. I push and I push. I ride and I ride. That's what they're gonna do.
All right. And final question from Chris Kersey. Do you think if we're, quote, thin at interior D line, that Patricia will go with some 3-4 versus 4-3? I think you could see some of that. I think the defense is going to be much more multiple anyway, just with Patricia. And some of that might be about where the strength of players are. And so you may see more like backerish edge player bodies on the field and try to get as big as you can inside and do the very best there. So that'll be kind of interesting and unique to kind of see how they balance it and what they end up being good at, Schlegs, as they move along. All right, we're going to take one last quick break and wrap it up with your parting thoughts.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
All right, welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show for the final segment. Schlegs, wrap us up.
Hey, I would say this. It rains a lot in Ohio, guys. Like, I mean, honestly, like, where is the sun? When is it going to not rain? I literally just moved up here from Florida. I'm trying to convince and talk my family into this positive juice, but it just continues to rain or drizzle or sprinkle all day. There is no end in sight. There's water standing in the yard. What are you doing? Most importantly, how do you convince yourself that this is fun? But we're going to do it. It's all good. Go Bucks.
There we go. That's it. Stay locked in here tomorrow. It's a Wednesday, so hopefully we'll have our guy, Mr. AJ Hawk, join the program. Talk to you then.